Hey guys, how's it going? This is Odin here doing a Dark Souls 1 walkthrough. So the entire concept for this was I have a whole bunch of friends um, that are incredibly intimidated by this franchise, and it's honestly not all that bad. So I figured, if I have five close friends that are too scared to get into this game, I'm sure there are plenty of other people that are as well. So the whole point is to kind of give players who are new to the franchise a little bit of a nice intro video to get them through their first playthrough of the game. This will be the first of several video installments. If you've been paying attention to my YouTube channel, you've already seen me play a little bit of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. To my Bloodborne fans out there, don't worry. I do have more of the Life and Times of Eustace Bag coming your way. I've just been very preoccupied of late. Moving on to from there, let's start a game. So we're gonna do our new game, obviously. All right. So character creator. We're just gonna call this guy Noob because that is what you guys are. Not to make fun, but I mean, hey. All right. Sex doesn't really matter. Do whatever you want. We're just gonna go male. Class. I always recommend to do the warrior class because that's what I did my first playthrough. It's got a decent amount of stats. You got a decent armor set. But what's more important than that is just the best gameplay style for a first playthrough of this game is sword and board, and this is the perfect class to start off with that. Your character is very mobile in his armor set, so he can move around very well. And the shield is decent for what you're starting off with. So that is the warrior set. If you want to go take a look at other classes, that's fine. In the description of the video below, I'll include a whole list of reasons why starting off as those classes is not something I'd recommend to somebody who is starting the game. The only other class that I'd really recommend outside of this would be the Knight, as they start off with very decent equipment as well. It's just heavier and is more for creating a tank class, which in Dark Souls is a lot more difficult than you'd think. It's not just, it doesn't matter how many points you pour into your vitality or anything, you get hit by something, it's gonna feel like a Mack truck running you over no matter what. There are very few people that I've seen go into a boss fight and they're a tank build and they're able to just eat hits. It's less about eating hits and more about keeping track of your health. But that's not what we're gonna go into. As I said, I'll have more on that in the description of the video. So, warrior. Okay, gift. So there are a few things on here that you can do. The black fire bombs are a really good thing. Twin humanities. They're good, but I wouldn't recommend getting this unless you've already played the series, which this isn't really the video for you. This is more for guys that are going into this game series for the first time. Binoculars, you can find those easily in games, sitting with pendant. The one that I recommend getting is the Master Key. And the reason for that is that it eliminates a very, very, very unnecessarily difficult part of the game, and kind of gives you a shortcut through it. You still have to go in it, but at least this way you aren't going to be frustrated and going the way that you're supposed to. So this gives you a kind of backdoor. I generally don't even bother going the way that you're supposed to. I'll go back and I'll do things later on, but this allows for you to get through a good chunk of the early story that is kind of, I don't want to say like difficult, I just feel that it's very frustrating because there's a lot of room for error, and it's one of those things where this area, you'll see when we get there. All right, so Master Key, physique, that doesn't really matter. We're just gonna do average. Now, when it comes down to customizing your face and everything, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this, but if you go down and you look at all the descriptions, you will notice that it gives a little bit of a backstory on where each of these people come from, and that kind of gives you a nice little preview as to how this game is supposed to feel. A lot of your discoveries that you make in-game are through reading item descriptions, and so I'm going to do a Dubious Kareem, and we'll just give me swept back hair because it's probably the most decent looking of the character models. Yeah. And then again, you look at these things, and you see that even down to the hairstyles, even down to hair color, they have everything planned out by pedigree. And it's really interesting. I'm gonna do gold, which is gold hair and eyes beloved by certain members of the nobility. But to give you another look, like, it just shows how much care has been brought into the lore and background of this story. So go gold. All right. So before I press accept, a little bit of a disclaimer: I am going to be playing the entirety of the opening cutscene. And the reason for that is because I know a lot of newer players are just gonna want to get into the game, but I beg of you, please watch this opening cutscene. This is the only story that you get, really. The only other cutscene, story-wise, that you get is at the end of the game. So watch this cutscene, really get a feel for the game that you're going into, because it allows for you to really appreciate what you are doing. So here we go.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty lords peeled apart their stone skins. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And seethed the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side. Yes, indeed. The dark side brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
How's that for an opening cutscene, right? Alright, so it's time to begin. Most of you guys are probably wondering, man, for all that time I spent on character creating and making my character look awesome, why does my character look like a dried up scrotum? And the reason for that is, you are cursed with the dark sign. So, dark sign signifies an accursed undead. Those branded with it are reborn after death, but will one day lose their mind and go hollow. Death triggers the dark sign, which returns. It's buried at the last bonfire rested at, but at the cost of all humanity and souls. Essentially, for those of you guys who have heard the whole thing of when you die in Dark Souls, you lose everything, that's true to an extent. You lose all of the souls that you gather, which is the currency of the game. But you don't lose any of your equipment or anything like that. I only mention this because there's been a huge misconception, and you know, I've heard people that I know be like, "Oh man, I wouldn't be able to do that." It's honestly not all that bad. But we'll talk more about death and Dark Souls here later. Right now, let's go. All right, so our friend up there just dropped us this, which is the dungeon cell key, which I'm not going to bother you with the item description. It's just the key to get out of the undead asylum. Alright, so really quickly we're going to go over some controls. Your right bumper is your light attack. Your right trigger is your heavy. Pressing the either the triangle or the Y button will double hand. Your B, or I think it's square, helps you roll. Or it might be O. It's O on the PlayStation controller. I apologize. A allows you to obviously like read messages, and I believe that's X on the PS4 controller. Then X is use item. Another thing that you can do is while you're walking, if you hold the roll button, you run, and if you tap that roll button again, you jump. Alright. We don't have anything with it yet, but we'll go over the parry and blocking system once we get a shield. Right now, notice that when I swing, that green bar goes down and then it regenerates when I stop doing that. That's your endurance meter. Look at that fat son of a bitch. You'll fight him later. Notice when they die, I get additional souls. It's not a lot, mind you. These are kind of shit tier enemies, so they're supposed to yield very little. We're literally just doing this for the sake of showing you guys how all this works. Alright, so these things right here are your saving grace. These are the bonfires. You light them and you can rest at them. These serve as checkpoints. So whenever you die, you're going to come right back here. Right? So we're going to light this bad boy up. And ahead of us is the first boss. Now, this first boss is kind of a trick question, because look at the equipment you've got. You've got a broken sword, no shield, and you don't have any health potions. What do you think you're probably supposed to do in this first boss fight? The answer is, not fight the first boss. There are going to be instances in Dark Souls where it's honestly better to just run away. And that's what this first boss fight is teaching you. You can actually go through and fight the first boss with this equipment, and it rewards you if you're able to beat it, but I don't recommend trying that because it's super frustrating. Even for someone that's skilled, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So my best advice is to do this. There's the big fat asylum demon. And look, no worries. Go back up there and look, and he'll be sitting right there being fat, awful. And look down here, we have another bonfire. Alright. So, we're gonna rest it. We didn't lose any life or anything, but still never a bad plan to do so. And what that reset does is that whenever you rest at a bonfire, it resets the area, and all the enemies that were there before that you killed come back to life. I'm gonna stand out of the way of that so I don't get hit by an arrow while I talk about everything. So, enemies come back to life whenever you die or whenever you reset the area, and the reason for that is actually compelling. It's not just because, oh, this is a video game and that's what happens. No, every single one of the enemies here is just like you. They were cursed with the dark side. They have just hollowed, which means that their minds are gone. And while this isn't like an active part of the game, if you give up on Dark Souls, it's kind of like your character is hollowed. Their inactivity means that you gave up. You gave up on the quest, it was too hard, and so your character hollowed. It doesn't mean that your character is going to appear in somebody else's game. What that does mean is that your character may as well be one of these enemies that you're fighting. These are people that this was just too much for them. And so they gave up on everything and their mind went crazy. And there's a character that you will see do that before your very eyes in this game. So let's get on. Hide here for a second. Press your start button, and then we go. We're gonna go equip items. So, heater shield. All right. So really quickly, to block your left bumper, parry is your left trigger. Now, when you're learning how to parry, I highly recommend that you can just keep your guard up. Just keep your guard up. That way, if you screw up on the parry, at least you don't get as much of the damage taken to you because the block's up. It's also just, it's good muscle memory. It's just a really solid thing to keep doing, especially in this game. So just hold that. When you're in combat, use the right analog stick. You click down on it and it will lock onto enemies, and I will show you that here in a sec. It also readjusts camera angles. So there we go. Now we're going to equip this longsword really quickly. Alright, and now we can go kill things. We now have the technology. Alright, so you look through there, and you notice that's the guy that pushed the corpse down, and it looks like he's having a bit of a bad day, and in all honesty, a lot of that is our doing. So, sorry dude, and we'll talk to him here in just a minute. If you notice, that is the courtyard that we were in before. So yeah. There is a shortcut to get down there, and what we're going to do is we're going to first unlock that. First, we're going to trigger this. Okay. Down here. Open that up. And here is another bit of important dialogue, so I will shut up now.
Oh, you. You're now hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I were both undead. Hear me out, will you? Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family, thou who art undead art chosen. In thine exodus from the undead asylum, maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know. And I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask. An undead favorite.
Those are your health potions.
Oh, and this.
That gets us to where we want to go.
Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Alright, so that guy is named Oscar, Knight of Astora. Before I said that there's a lot of interesting and compelling lore of Dark Souls, and Oscar might actually be one of my favorite characters in this game. There is a outstanding YouTube channel called Bati Vidya, and Bati compiles a whole bunch of incredible lore videos in a Prepare to Cry series, and his video on Oscar is outstanding. I highly recommend checking him out. There's also another video, and I'm blanking on who did it. I will find it and post it in the description below here when but it also talks about how the prophecy that he gave seems almost fabricated, and as you play the game, you'll get to understand how that is very relevant. And even when you look up lore, because I'm going to be honest with you, I've logged over 200 hours into this game alone, and I still haven't discovered everything on my own. So most of the things I know from lore are from watching these videos, reading wiki pages and stuff like that. It's a very community-based game. So, yeah, dive in and explore. And that's all I'll say about lore for now. that is Oscar dying back there. So that is the parry. When you perform it correctly, you'll hear that drum beat. So what I recommend doing is use this time to essentially go through and practice parrying against these guys. It makes life a lot easier if you do it now in an early game, so that way by the time you get to the end of the game, because this is a mechanic that can either go really well for you, or it will mess your day up, as you just saw. There's the Asylum Demon throwing a temper tantrum down there. There is also a backstab that I will show you now, if I can get it. Oh, there's also this, which is the kick, and that really helps when an enemy is keeping their guards up. Some of them have little Estus flasks on them. They don't remember how to do much, but they remember how to drink. There's your backstab. Those are the two critical things that you can do. You can do the parry critical and the backstab. I'm not sure if it's a part of this game, but in later games, if you do this kick and knock out their shield, they stun for a moment, and you can go in and grab a critical there as well. But anyways, let's go kill this Asylum Demon. Traverse the white light, and what you're gonna do, you're gonna lock on down here, and you do a lot of damage right off the bat. So the big trick with this is to try and get around to his butt, and then he's gonna do this animation where he flies up in the air and tries and sits on you, like that. And you're gonna let him do his little sumo thing, and you're gonna run in and get 3 hits. So as you see, that's not particularly difficult. It didn't take me long. Granted, as I said, I've logged in a considerable amount of hours in this game, and so I've gotten pretty good. But even still, for a new player, once you get this sword, that boss is like super easy. So just be patient, and remember, rolling and moving around is key to success in this game. You will come back later, and this will be more necessary. You can come back to the Asylum later. And there's a little NPC right over here called Snuggly the Crow. And he'll trade things with you. He's not saying anything to me right now, because as I said, I don't really have anything to trade with him. But when you come back later and you have stuff to trade, you'll put stuff down there, and he'll trade you items that are far more valuable. And I'll do a video on that later.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
Alright, welcome to Lordran, the land of ancient lords, the place where the real game starts. So, while we are here, I'm going to go level us up really quickly. Rest of the bonfire. This is where you level up. I'm sure you can probably guess where you do that. Level up button. So, right now, I don't usually do this, but just to give people a bit of an edge, we've got, I think I've got 3 or 4 points that I can assign here. What we're going to do is we're going to assign them to faith, which allows you to perform miracles in the game. But more importantly, there's a weapon that I'm going to get you guys early on that'll carry you through this game and help you guys out a lot. It's a good weapon to go with, and otherwise we're going to be mainly doing a dex build because it scales really well with a lot of weapons, and it's the way to go in this game. I very seldomly do any other build whenever I play a Souls game. So faith, we're going to pour in. Okay, so we get to 12. Alright, so okay, I'm going to confirm this reinforcement. Now, this guy over here we'll talk to here on our when we get back here. But if you noticed back when we were at the Asylum, there were notes on the ground. Those notes can be very useful, and in the first area they teach you how to use the controls. But after that, be very wary about what they say. There is usually like 10 right in front of this guy right here that will tell you to attack him. Don't listen to them. They're being assholes, because players can put that on the ground as well. And yeah, he's not only important, he will mess your day up and kind of ruin early game for you. So we're just going to go this way really quickly to get you guys some better equipment. See there's a firekeeper down there, and as you can see, she cannot speak. This is an area much later in the game called New Londo. As you can see, it's a very nice destination spot. Not really. It's kind of flooded and terrible. But the reason why we are coming here is this. And this is why the Master Key is so important. So while we're here, I'll just talk about this for a second. Get you guys in souls, and that'll give us the ability to level up at least once more. I can't imagine it wouldn't. This right here is the exit of the most infamous part of this game called Blighttown. This will give you entry into Blighttown near where the boss is, and it makes the entire experience of this game much better, because the less time that you spend in Blighttown, the better. I'm gonna head this way. Alright, so right there is the remains of an ancient dragon. If you recall from the cutscene, Nito, the first death, after those scales had been stripped by the lightning, infected them with a miasma of death and plague. So what we're going to do is, we've got these 2 items right here, and we're probably going to die. Yeah, we died. Alright, nothing. But to pay us back for it, we also got the Dragon Crest Shield, which, there you go. And then we also got the Astora's Straight Sword. As you see, it requires 14 faith, which is why I did that immediate pour into the faith rather than going into vitality. And this weapon is the shit. It is great. And so what we're going to do is we are going to use our large soul of the undead here. Gives us 1,000. I think that gives us 3 humanity. I think there are a few other things that you can farm and that you can get in this little area right here. That should give you some more souls, if I recall correctly. Here, I've got 6 fire bombs. That's pretty useful. This guy's a bad person. I would tell you to kill him right now, but just wait until you're high enough level so that you actually stand a chance. This will be a shortcut later in the game, but it's not really accessible right now. It's broken. Soul of Lost and Dead. So let's use that. Additional 200. We're gonna go level up here really quickly. Hopefully get you guys to level 14 with that faith so that you can just use that Astora's Straight Sword, because it makes things a lot easier. Alright. Damn it. Just short. Alright. That's okay. As I said, I figured that was going to be the case. Wait, there's actually one more place that hold on. Sorry. I know that that's generally not what you want to be doing in these videos, but I would like to be able to get you guys to the point where you can use that Astora's Straight Sword and show you that you can do it fairly early game. There we go. Here. Now later on, you got to be careful. These things could potentially be mimics, and mimics are just not fun to deal with at all. Oh great, so nothing. That's right. Let's see, what is here? Lloyd's Talisman. We are not going to go that way, solely because there's a lot of bad things down there. The Homeward Bone takes you back to the last bonfire you were at. So we didn't get you the Astora's Straight Sword, but that's okay. You should be able to get it here very shortly.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first. But there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are actually 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on, but I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead?
So those are your next directions for the quest. I recommend talking to him a bit. He explains a few other things, and exhausts his dialogue options. So I'm just going to do that here really quickly.
Your face. You're practically hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit. What? Well, there are a few ways to go about it. Collect it bit by bit from corpses. Or you can butter up a cleric and get yourself summoned.
And that's talking about the
quickest
multiplayer?
way, although I'd never do it, is to kill a healthy undead and pillage its humanity. Coveting thy neighbor is only human, after all.
Right. So, down at the bottom left of the screen on your items, right now I have humanity. And so that is hard humanity. And when you pop them, you get the numbers by your health bar start to multiply, right? And the numbers are your soft humanity. Having more humanity popped and being actually human boosts item drops and a whole bunch of other stuff. I generally don't really mess with it all that much because being human is the only way that you can summon people for boss fights, and for your first time going through the game, that's going to be pretty precious, especially when you get later on. But just to show you what we're doing here, I'm going to pop a humanity and restore my humanity. So notice the 1. Then reverse hop. Now I'm going to unequip humanity from my bar up here, just because I don't want to waste it. I'm going to do the same thing for this. Cracked red eye orbs, they're not going to be useful, especially for new players. Notice your player now looks like how he is supposed to, and that's because he's human again. So this is the way to the first part of the quest. Notice, it's not particularly difficult, especially with these enemies. There's a guy that throws fire bombs up above. I just wasted one of mine. Sorry, I'm coming off playing a completely different game than Control. So, and at least he was just throwing a fire bomb. They hurt, so don't get hit. Ah, I can actually... Well, we'll do that when we get to the next bonfire. Another big tip is don't get like super intimidated by how many how much damage you're taking. I only usually use an Estus Blast when I get like really low on health. It's the only time I generally use that, because otherwise it's you're gonna run out of them when you'd like to have more. Wow. Rats are mean, but you can learn from that. That's gonna go on for a bit. Hopefully I can get to the next part of the next bonfire before then. When I get to the next bonfire, I'm probably gonna shut down this video I'll do the next one here in the next few days. I noticed, while I still took a little bit of damage when I got hit with that firebomb, it was greatly reduced because I have that awesome shield. The Dragon Crest shield is honestly something that you will be able to use the entire game. I know what you're thinking. Weren't all the dragons dead? And he is technically not a dragon. He is, I believe, a wyvern. So, a little bit of the old kind of, but not really deal. It's good to just kind of kite these guys away from their Arbalest pal that's just sitting up there waiting to be mean to you. The welcome committee in Lordran is evidently not very big on hospitality. Alright, so we've gotten to our second bonfire. Before we level up, we're going to pop some of these souls that we've got for the sake of being able to level up. Okay, so let's level up a bit. So first we're going to put a point there, a point here, and that's all we can put in. Now, it's time to equip some new things. Just to show you guys a bit of the upswing in damage. Yeah, I figured probably about one hit for these guys. Yeah, two actually. Which, granted, it was 2 before, but you also notice, like, it does considerably more damage. I'm gonna reset this. Yeah, that concludes my first video walkthrough. The next video I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get you guys through to the first Bell of Awakening. I hope you guys have enjoyed this first video. I know that I got a little bit quiet there in the second half. That's because, in all honesty, I pretty much said everything I needed to say. This, at this point, is more of just like a walkthrough of things to pick up, where to get them, and stuff like that. So, yeah. Alright. What I am going to do really quickly is I'm going to show you as one last thing I completely forgot about. There is one other thing that you do with humanity, and that is kindle a bonfire. Kindling a bonfire allows you to get more Estus flasks at a bonfire. Right now, you can only kindle each bonfire once, which allows you 10 Estus flasks as opposed to 5. And in all honesty, if that's the only amount that you kindle a bonfire throughout this game, you'll usually be good. Most bonfires I only keep at one. They're only a select few where I'll pour in more, and they're usually right before a boss fight that I know is going to be difficult. But I mean, otherwise, you can really just do one. You can only you can really just kindle the bonfire once. You should be fine. But yeah, that ends my first video. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and we will see you next time. How do I do the? Yep, see you next time.